In this program, we're going to learn how to use another decision or choice structure called switch. It's an alternative to if, else if, else if, else if. We're going to have people enter in class periods from 1 to 7. And, well, it's already ready if they type in something bad like woof. Got a try parse going already. We want from 1 to 7, so I've got, well, 0 would be bad, and 55 is bad, and 5 is good. And I've used some ifs for that, which to this point is what you know how to do. Got the try parse, which I'm using trim this time now that I know that string method to take out any leading or trailing spaces. And period number then is going to be an integer. And I have this if to make sure it's between 1 and 7, including 1 and 7. That was okay. Otherwise, I had an error message and got the same error message off the try parse failure if they did not actually put an integer in there. But I'm going to get rid of this entire if else structure and replace it with switch. So guaranteed period number is an integer, and that's what we're going to switch on is period number. So I'll type switch and then in parentheses put what the value is we're going to switch upon. It's going to be period number. We can use all kinds of things. This is a integer variable. We could use a double variable. We could use a string variable. We could use a character variable. We could use objects like text out of a text box. So I'm going to first check the integer 1. That's why it says case 1. So in case, that's like saying if period number double equals 1, but it's case 1. And I'll put a class in there. I'll just pick algebra 2. I've got to put break after each case here. That's why you see that red squiggle, to break us out of the switch. So now, when I type a 1 in, I should get the class algebra 2. And we do. That was the case where period number was equivalent to 1. How about the case where period number is equivalent to 2? I'll just pick another class. Computer science, the best class in the school. And remember to use break. Sorry about the glitch that happened with the video there and brought this little red and white thing on the side and shifted everything over. Couldn't really do anything about it. And I didn't feel like doing the whole thing all over again. So I'll type in 1 to get algebra 2. In the case of 2, we get computer science. But what if I want more than one case to have the same result? I'll go with case 3, followed immediately with case 4, and they'll go to the same situation. I'll have this be band. You could, again, use any classes you want. And wait for it, here comes the red squiggle because we haven't used break yet to end this case. The case of 3, which also goes down to the case of 4. They both lead to band. So 3 leads to band. 4 leads to band. And again, this is like saying else if period number is 2, or else if period number is 3, else if period number is 4. So just to show you quickly with the breakpoint, I'll type in the number 2, click enter period. It goes to the try parse. Period number now is 2, so it goes to the case 2. You notice it's very much like ifs. But a different way to look at it, sometimes it's easier to read a switch instead of a whole bunch of if, else if, else if, else if, else if, else if. Don't have to keep typing all the else ifs. Just have to keep typing cases and breaks. I just did 3 more classes for 5th, 6th, and 7th period. You might want to pause the video and do the same thing. I'm going to test them out now to make sure that a lot of them are working okay. But again, feel free to pause the video and use whatever classes you want. Let's now deal with the issue of they typed in an integer, but it's not from 1 to 7. We could have a case called default. This is like the else that we've run into with if, else if, and else's. The default case is if it doesn't go to any of the other cases. Well, I like this error message and putting the focus back in the text box that happens if they screwed up even putting an integer in the first place. So I'll make that the default case. And even though it's the very last case I've put here, I've got to put break. So I still have that red squiggle until I put break. Now every integer situation is covered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are all covered. And if it's not one of those, then the default is something else. I'll mark that this brace down here ends the switch structure for when we switch on period number. And I'll test it out. Trying to hit the default. So 101, here we go. Went to the default case. 6, there was a case 6. Negative 55, that's the default case. I'll put a little documentation here at the top as well to indicate that what's going on is that the purpose of this switch is to kind of match up a period number with the class. Just like an if block should have a little documentation explaining what's going on, so should a switch. And again, hopefully you're seeing it's very, very similar to if, else if, but with some less writing, and it might be way easier to read. And these are all integers because period number is an integer. If we had a string variable in there like dog name, then the cases would all have, Fido in quotation marks, Rover in quotation marks. Well, we've learned about tooltips, so I would encourage you to go ahead and add a tooltip control to the form. Go over to the toolbox and get a tooltip. And there are 2 buttons in a text box. Think about what you might want to have pop up on the screen when users hover the mouse over those controls.